Okay, I believe I have got that solved. Um, Never open too many windows at once and then try to figure out which one is the one you want because it just gets confusing. Hello and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may happen to be in the world. Special hello to my mother in law, Hazel. Hello, sweetie. Good to see you. Your daughter as well. She is upstairs and sleeping with a tiny chihuahua tucked up against her because he is the most thermotropic animal you have ever seen, and he is a heat seeker. And basically, he just wants someone to be in bed with him all day, and that only actually works out at nighttime. But he's taking full advantage of it. But anyway, so Deb is good. I'm good. I hope everybody on the Aldridge end of things is good also, and we send our love. Obviously, we just had a birthday for one of our kids, which is one of the reasons it's been a crazy week. But that is now in the rearview mirror. Although this time of the year, we've got a birthday in early November, we got a birthday in mid November, we got a birthday in December, we got Christmas, we got another birthday in January. Most of which I wind up buying presents for, and it's overwhelmingly fun, he said, somewhat sarcastically. I'm very happy to give people presents, and I love my family and all that, but I'm not crazy about shopping. And I'm not crazy about this time of the year either because of all the birthdays and Christmas. But I will endeavor not to Grinch out or Scrooge out too badly this year and not make everybody suffer because of my grumpy anti-holidays attitude. Um, I I actually kind of like the holidays. I confess, I have a sort of a, despite being completely non-religious, I have a strong connection to the Christmas season. That I mean, I watch stupid Christmas movies just like everybody does. Big white Christmas fan, big Lemon Drop Kid fan. More recent ones too, obviously. The marvelous, it's a Bob Clampett production. The no, sorry, Chuck, what's his name? Production of The Grinch, all that stuff. Chuck Jones, thank you, Chuck Jones, famous Warner Brothers animator and producer director. Anyway, so before I start, what is there to tell this week? Hooray, The Navigator's Children is finally out. Some of you may have copies, and if so, I thank you. And Deb thanks you, and our family thanks you for contributing to our well being, because that is really most of the way that we earn income. And then Deb attempts to turn it into more income with her clever business management, and does. Thank God. It'll take some of the pressure off. What else was I going to tell you about today? Oh, two interesting things happened. Monday, I had to take both dogs to the vet. I believe it was Monday, yeah. And no, it was like Thursday. It was Friday. It was Friday. Yes, hello. Yeah, I work every day. That's why I don't know what day it is. Don't give me a ration about that. People always used to do that at the YMCA where I played basketball. I'd go, "Is it Friday or Monday?" Because we played Friday, Monday, Wednesday. And they'd go, "Oh, isn't that nice? You don't even have to know what day it is." I'm going, "Because I work every day. Monday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it makes no difference." But anyway, so Friday, I had to take both dogs in at the same time and made the tragic mistake of, while I was waiting, because they've got a whole, still post COVID, but they have a whole kind of thing where they prefer to have us out in the parking lot and then they come and get the dogs or come and get the credit card or whatever. But of course, I was sitting out there waiting for a while, so I decided I should take the dogs out for a little walk around and perhaps to trickle out some unnecessary liquids before they went inside for their various exams and whatnots. And two dogs of very different sizes and very different temperaments, and you've got them both on leashes at the same time, at the edge of a parking lot where there are a lot of posts and poles. Serious problem. And it reminded me very strongly. Here's a quick tad story. Many, many years in the past, back long ago, I used to paint. Whoops, where'd it go? That there is one of the things that I painted back in those days, which is, I think, the only painting I have left. Maybe there's one other. But anyway, I had this brilliant idea one day that there was, in downtown Palo Alto, there was water tower. And I thought, oh, I should go and paint that. That would be a good thing to do today. I don't have work today. And somehow I got the dumbass idea of like, I'll take the cats because we had little leashes for them that I hadn't had much opportunity to try out. So I thought, oh, I'll take the cats out with me and, like stake the leashes out and then I can sit and work and paint this thing. And it was like by the side of not a main road, but definitely a road, with traffic and stuff. But there was a safe space in between the two lanes. It was quite wide. So I figured, okay, I'll just sit there and paint. Oh my God, talk about being punished by the universe for stupidity. So immediately I got out of the car. My ex dropped me off. Immediately I got out of the car. The cats lost their minds. They completely lost their minds. They freaked out big time. They were like running to the end of their leashes, both of them in opposite directions, and like plong, and then they'd like their little legs would go flying through the air, and they'd both hit the ground, and they'd run back the other way, and they were running around me, and they were trying to climb up me to be saved. Now there were like one car every 5 minutes. It was not like I dragged them out into the middle of the freeway or something. But they just like the whole thing was just too much for them. So they were like running around and crawling all over me and climbing up and trying to get on top of my head where it was presumably safest, although that never did my hair much good. Obviously was not good for everybody to be on top of my head, certainly not for my follicles. But anyway, just this total craziness. And unfortunately, this was in the days before cell phones, folks. Yes, I am that old. And older, in fact. And so I had no way of contacting my ex who had dropped me off. And she was off doing things and was going to be out doing things for several hours. So I basically, within moments, actually, of her driving away, I was sitting there with these two psychotic cats running up and down my legs, tangling themselves, strangling themselves, despite the fact that they did not have collars around their neck. They had harnesses. You don't put cat leashes on a collar. You put them in you have a harness on them, and then you put the leash on that. But so they were like still managing, though, even though they were not being strangled by their own harnesses, they were strangling each other with the leashes. They were climbing all over me. They were sticking their claws in me in their desperate attempts to get out of the way. And so I basically had to grab them and hold them and sat there for 2 hours with the cat under each arm, struggling to get away and still in a panic and freaked out and all that, clawing my side, which was not the first time I'd ever had my cats do that to me. But that's another story for another day. Anyway, so as I was out there in the parking lot outside the vet's office on Friday, with these two dogs tangling themselves and stepping on each other, and the little one stepping on the big one irritates the big one. The big one stepping on the little one is always very close to a murder rap because, of course, Johnny weighs 80 pounds and Walter weighs like 4. So it was psychotic and crazy. I got them back into the car finally. And unlike the time with the cats, I actually had a place I could retreat to and did. And eventually they got taken inside and we did all the vet stuff. And, anybody who has animals and has 2 animals go in for major checkups and new meds and all that stuff knows if you are not going to walk away for less than 4 figures. So it was a entertaining experience, I guess, for anybody who was watching. For me, not so much. And then to get the bill afterwards was a bit brutal. Anyway, but there was something else I was going to mention, other than obviously the book being out. What was it? Oh, the other thing that's been going on this week is, as I've mentioned, we're doing a lot of work around the house that has been put off for years, some of it. And in the course of doing it, we had the stairs varnished that lead down to my office here. And what's really interesting about that, because we haven't been able to use the stairs for like 3 days, and that's the only way from inside the house down to where I am right now. And in fact, if you see the back wall, the one behind me with the doors and all that stuff in it, that actually, there's like the water heater and stuff on the other side of it, and then it runs directly into the house. So it's like we've got a full size house on the top floor and then a half a house on this floor down here. So it's connected, but there's only one way to get to it from the house itself, which is down the stairs that had just been varnished, the stairs which are out of commission for several days, and they're still not dry yet. Anyway, the only reason I'm mentioning all this, it's not a big deal, but psychologically it's really interesting because now it's an extra 10, 15 steps maybe, but now to get here, I have to come down, out the front door and down the stairs there and walk around the side of the house and come in through what is a sliding glass door down here in the office, which is the only other way in and out of the office. And so not only is it psychologically strange because now your house has a different shape, but it's psychologically strange also because now I have to walk outside through the cold snap. Now, trust me, those of you who are listening in from anywhere cold, I am not claiming that that is a problem. A cold here in California at night is like, low 50s or mid 40s or something like that. It hardly even gets down to freezing here. But it is distinctly a different psychological operation than walking down the stairs inside your house to your room down here, to actually having to go outside every time and walk through this sudden cold of the weather and be reminded, oh yeah, it's not warm outside, it's warm in the house. But it's also hilarious because every time the cats, who are entirely used to us coming in through the door and hardly even look up if they're sleeping in their cat tree or something, which as a matter of fact, one of them is doing right now. I don't know if you can, well, it won't focus on him, but that orange blob in the background is one of the cats in his cat tree. But anyway, so now what happens is every time I come down and approach the house from the outside, these two cats, not the same cats that tried to kill me when I was out painting 30 years ago, or 40 years ago now, whatever it was. But these cats now are like totally alarmed whenever I come in through that door. And by the time I come up the pathway from the outside and in through the sliding glass door, they have leaped up in their tree or wherever they happen to be at the time. And the eyes are big and they're like huddling up close to each other. It's like, murderers, cat murderers are coming. And I'm like, guys, you can't even see me when I come through the door in the house and you know it's me. So how can you not look through the glass and notice that it's me and it's the same guy with no hair and everything else that you're familiar with? And every time I come in, you act like it's, the Gestapo or something. But it's mainly the psychological effect that I find very interesting, that suddenly my house has a different shape. I'm so used to coming down the stairs and it's connected and it's part of the inside of the house. And all of a sudden now I have to go through the outside. Not a big deal, not a travail or a problem or a worry or anything like that at all, but just psychologically interesting how we map our environments. And when that map changes for whatever reason, either because in our case, we're having some work done or, whatever it might be, it's consistently strange. The brain is consistently caught off guard. Like, oh yeah, right. This is how I have to do this now. And it's different and it doesn't feel right. So anyway, I don't know why I felt I needed to share all that stuff, but I did. And now you have been shared with and you cannot get away. It's too late. I've already told you those two stupid stories, and now they're stuck in your brain. So I win. Anyway, so what are we going to do? Tonight we're going to read more of The Sword and Stone. I said in a rather blithe and self-certain kind of way that I was positive we were going to finish the book this weekend. Looking at how many pages there are, I'm not sure now. Maybe yes. Maybe it'll be shorter than I think it is, and it won't even take 2 full nights. Maybe it'll be more, and I'll have to stretch or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go. But I'm going to start reading in just a couple of minutes, so we'll get as much of it done tonight as we can. Let me check in and see who has showed up and said hello. There's Olaf. These, of course, are in back to front order. So hello, Olaf. Good to see you. Christy Sanders. Good morning to you. Suzanne. Good morning for unusually sunny Yorkshire. Oh, I'm glad to hear it. Wouter, hello. Thank you for the congratulations. You say you're thrilled to have it. I am very thrilled to have it out because I was really ready for it to be published like a year ago. So I've had to put that whole thing on that whole response system on hold for a year. Anamika, good to see you. Iris, good to see you. There is my mother-in-law, who I already said hello to, but I'll say hello again in case she's still listening. Hello, Hazel. Good to see you, sweetie. Chris, good morning to you. Meine Herr Fabricius. Mark checking in, and Mark reaffirms that it is sunny in Yorkshire this morning, which I'm very glad to hear. Isaac says hello, and I say hello, Lord Isaac. Good to see you. Nikki checking in from a reasonably sunny Leicestershire. Penny, hello, Penny. Penny's got the book. Thank you, Penny. I appreciate it. Carol, hello. Some very kind words about the new book. There's Sandra checking in from sunny but cold Vienna. Lovely city, though, Vienna is, no matter the weather. Olaf also got the new book. Thank you, Olaf. You have always been such a good friend and supporter. Nicole, hello, hello. And Nicole apparently is reading the book too. So, Nikki, did I say hello to you yet? If I haven't, I apologize. I'm easily confused, and good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Dirk, same. Good morning, good night, good day. Christina, hello, hello. Thank you for the kind words. Let me see if I've got anybody else. Suzanne, if I didn't say hello to you already, I say it now. Good to see you. Jeremy, hello. Who else? Roja Langenhof. And I have no idea if I'm pronouncing your first name correctly, especially since it appears to be a Dutch name, and my Dutch is terrible. My accent is worse. So please feel free to let me know how best to sign it. And who else? Maria Jose, hello. Good to see you. Checking in from Valencia. A pleasure. And Karen Grennan, hello. Nice to see you too, Karen. So I think at this point, Roja asks, oh my God, you read the books. And I'm not sure who that is in response to. If it's in response to something of me, I have read many of my books on this Facebook channel or also on the YouTube that Chris Fab puts together. And we also have a mailing list and other stuff. So if you want to find out where to access any of this, send my wife Deborah or me in direct messages an email address, and we can put you on the mailing list. As I always say, it's a very simple mailing list. It's just when we have something to say every month or two, we'll send it out. When we have something to announce, we'll announce it. I usually will write a letter or something to go with it, just what's going on with me and what I'm thinking about at the moment. We do not sell it, obviously. We don't do anything with it except that we do not bombard you with information because there's not that much information, really. I'm a writer, It takes me at least a year, sometimes two, to write a book. I'm not going to be sending you emails every couple of days saying, oh, buy this. Oh, have you done this? Oh, take my quiz, or whatever the hell it is that people send out. Oh, and last thing, I wanted to show you. This is my Atomic Metapagans t-shirt. And Atomic Metapagans is a band that includes my publisher Betsy Walheim's husband Peter Stamfel, who is a important musician as well as a wonderful and fun musician. And among others, both of his daughters, I believe, are part-time Atomic Metapagans. And one of those daughters, Zoe, is giving birth on Monday. So all of you who are of an obstetric vibe sort of frame of mind, send excellent vibes to New York for Zoe and her husband John to have a lovely, happy, healthy birth experience. And Zoe is, you're getting old when somebody who you once held in your arms when she was a tiny baby, and actually famously, Zoe actually, when she was a baby, she got a grip on some of my chest hair and just yanked those suckers right out. But she has grown up to be a wonderful woman. I can't even say young woman anymore because Zoe's now in her 30s. And it's amazing to me to think that she is having a baby of her own. So I'm saving a patch of chest hair just for young Asher when he's old enough to rip the flesh from my body, just like his mother once did. Anyway, with that, I am going to jump back into reading, and I thank you for indulging me through a variety of silly stories and my experiences of the week. I have nothing much else to say because I'm just working on the Splintered Sun. The book is out. I'm doing interviews. I did another nice interview today with Matthew Sorensen from Beard of Darkness. I'll be doing a couple more this week. Got one coming up with I've forgotten the name of it now. Anyway, it'll be on my Facebook, or I've also just opened a Blue Sky account, and I'm going to be starting to post there as well. So anyway, I hope I have now. Oh, a new person, Glenn. Hello, Glenn. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us, Glenn Eisenberg. Anyway, so now I'm going to go and read once I find my book here. Okay, we're getting into the last bits of the Sword in the Stone. Merlin is basically giving the wart one last chance to get some wisdom from being changed into something. In this case, a badger. Merlin has sent Wart off to meet the badger and made him another badger, a younger badger, presumably. And but Wart, in a fit of feeling sorry for himself because Kay is being knighted, his stepbrother, foster brother, whatever you want to call it. And Wart is sad because, this is going to be a big thing and he will have to be Kay's squire, and he's kind of sad about that, and that kind of feels like his life isn't going to be much, but he's going to do his best. But he's in a grumpy mood, and he knows that Merlin is going to be not going to be changing him into any more things. So instead of going straight to see the badger, the wart, Arthur, has gone out and is in a bad mood and sort of feels like, well, I'm not even going to go do that. I'm just going to go out and be a badger. So the first creature that he has encountered is a hedgehog sleeping in a pile of dead leaves and grass. And so I'm just going to read the few little bits before that, and we'll continue. The hedgehog, which had hidden its bright little eye buttons and long sensitive nose inside its curl, and which had ornamented its spikes with a not very tasteful arrangement of dead leaves before going to bed for the winter in its grassy nest, woke up at this and squealed most lamentably. "The more you squeal," said the wart, "the more I shall gnash. It makes my blood boil within me." "Ah, Mr. Brock." Brock, by the way, is an old-fashioned word for badger, if you haven't run across it before. An old English term for badger. "Ah, Mr. Brock," cried the hedgehog, holding himself tight shut. "Good Mr. Brock, show mercy to a poor urchin, and don't he be tyrannical. Us bean't no common tiggy, mister, for to be munched and mumbled. Have mercy, kind sir, on a harmless, flea-bitten crofter which can't tell his left hand nor his right." "Hedge pig," said the wart remorselessly, "forbear to whine, neither thrice nor once." "Alas, my poor wife and childer." "I bet you have not got any. Come out of that, thou tramp. Prepare to meet thy doom." "Mr. Brock," implored the unfortunate pig, "come now, don't he be awkward. Sweet Mr. Brock, my duck, hearken to an urchin's prayer. Grant the dear boon of life to this most uncommon tiggy, lordly mister, and he shall sing to thee in numbers sweet, or teach ye how to suck cow's milk in the pearly dew." "Sing?" asked the wart, quite taken aback. "Aye, sing," cried the hedgehog, and it began hurriedly to sing in a very placating way, but rather muffled, because it dared not uncurl.
Oh, Genevieve, it sang most mournfully into its stomach. Sweet Genevieve. Their days may come, their days may go, but still the light of memory weaves those gentle dreams of long ago. It also sang, without pausing for a moment between the songs, Home Sweet Home and The Old Rustic Bridge by the Mill. Then, because it had finished its repertoire, it drew a hurried but quavering breath and began again on Genevieve. After that, it sang Home Sweet Home and The Old Rustic Bridge by the Mill. Come, said the wart, you can stop that. I won't bite you. Clementius Maester, whispered the hedge pig humbly, us shall bless the saints and board of governors for thee and for thy most kindly chops, so long as fleas skip nor urchins climb up chimblies. Then, for fear that its brief relapse into prose might have hardened the tyrant's heart, it launched out breathlessly into Genevieve for the third time. Stop singing, said the wart, for heaven's sake. Uncurl, I won't do you any harm. Come, you silly little urchin, and tell me where you learned these songs. Uncurl is one word, answered the porpentine tremblingly. It did not feel in the least fretful at the moment. But curling up is still another. If he was to see my little naked nose, master, at this despicuous moment, he might feel a twitching in thy white toothsomes. And all's fear in love and war, that we do know. Let us sing to ye again, sweet Master Brock, concerning Vic their rustic mill. I don't want to hear it any more. You sing it very well, but I don't want it again. Uncurl, you idiot, and tell me where you learned to sing. Us bean't no common urchin, quavered the poor creature, staying curled up as tight as ever. Us were a took when little by one of them there gentry like, as it might be from my mother's breast. Ah, don't he nip our tender vitals, lovely Master Brock, for he were a proper gentleman, he were, and brought us up full comely on cow's milk, and that all sucked out from a lordly dish. Oh, there bean't many urchins what a drunken water outer porcelain, that there bean't. I don't know what you are talking about, said the wart. He were a gentleman, cried the hedgehog desperately, like I tell 'ee. He took us when us were little, and fed un when us ain't no more. He were a proper gentleman what fed un inter parlour, like what no urchins han't been afore nor since. Fed out from gentlemen's porcelain, aye, and a dreary day it were whenever us left un, for naught but wilfulness, that thou mayst be sure. What was the name of this gentleman? He were a gentleman, he were. He hadn't no proper name like, not like you may remember, but he were a gentleman, that he were, and fed un out of porcelain. Was he called Merlin? Asked the wart curiously. Ah, that were his name. A proper fine name it were, but us never lay tongue to it by nary means. Ah, Merlin, he called to hisself, and fed un out of porcelain like a proper fine gentleman. Oh, do uncurl, exclaimed the wart. I know the man who kept you, and I think I saw you yourself when you were a baby in cotton wool at his cottage. Come on, urchin, I'm sorry I frightened you. We are friends here, and I want to see your little grey, wet, twitching nose, just for old time's sake. Twitching nose be one name, answered the hedgehog obstinately, and a twitching of that nose be another, master. Now you move along, kind Mr. Brock, and leave a poor crofter to take his winter drowse. Let you think of beetles or honey, sweet baron, and flights of angels sing thee to thy rest. "Nonsense!" exclaimed the wart. "I won't do you any harm, because I knew you when you were little." "Ah, them badgers," said the poor thing to its stomach. "They go a-barrowing about with no harm in their hearts, Lord bless 'em, but don't they fair give you a nip without a noticing of it? And Lord bless 'ee, what is a retired man to do? It's that there skin of theirs, that's what it be, which from earliest childer they been a-nipping of among each other, and also of their maws, without a feeling of anything among themselves, so natural they nips elsewhere like the same. Now my poor gentleman, Maister Mern, they was allers a rushing arter his ankles with their yick, yick, yick when they want to be fed like. Those what kept he from what he kept from littles, and holy church, how he would scream. Aye, 'tis a mullocky thing to deal with they badgers, that us may be sure." "Don't say nothing," added the hedgehog before the wart could protest. "Blunder along like one of they ambling hearthrugs on the outsides of their girt feet, getting their way for a moment, just out of fortune like, without nary wicked intention, and 'tis snip snap, just like that, out of self-defence for the hungry blind, and then where are you?" "Only piece us can do for un," continued the urchin, "is to hit un on ter nose. Achilles' heel, they name un on ter scriptures. Hit one of they girt trollops on ter nose, bim bam, like that here, and the sharp life is fair outer him ere he can snuffle. 'Tis a fair knockout, that is. But how can a poor urchin dump un on ter nose, when he ain't got nothing to dump with, nor way to hold un? And then they comes about and asks ye for to uncurl." "You need not uncurl," said the wart resignedly. "I am sorry I woke you up, chap, and I'm sorry I frightened you. I think you are a charming hedgehog, and meeting you has made me feel more cheerful again. You just go off to sleep like you were when I met you, and I shall go to look for my friend Badger, as I was told to do. Good night, urchin, and good luck in the snow." "Good night it may be," muttered the pig grumpily, "and then again it's mayn't. First it's uncurl, and then it's curl. One thing one moment, and another to next. Hey-ho, 'tis a turvy world. But good night, ladies, is my motto, come hail, come snow, and so us shall be continued in our next." With these words, the humble animal curled himself up still more snugly than before, gave several squeaky grunts, and was far away in a dream world so much deeper than our human dreams, as a whole winter's sleep is longer than the quiet of a single night. "Well," thought the wart, "he certainly gets over his troubles pretty quickly. Fancy going to sleep again as quick as that. I dare say he was never more than half awake all the time, and will think it was only a dream when he gets up properly in the spring." He watched the dirty little ball of leaves and grass and fleas for a moment, curled up tightly inside its hole, then grunted and moved off toward the badger's set, following his own oblong footmarks backward in the snow. Set, by the way, brief tad intromission. Set is S-E-T-T, and it's an old word. Some of you may know it, many of you may not, which is, again, a badger's den, a set. And in fact, it comes from an old English, early English word, or Middle English maybe, but I think early English. And it basically means a resting place or a staying place, and that's why in the Dragon and Bone Chair books, why there is a place built and named Gadrin Set. It means gathering place, again, in a sort of corruption of Old English. So, all right. "So Merlin sent you to me," said the badger, "to finish your education. Well, I can only teach you two things, to dig and love your home. These are the true end of philosophy." Would you show me your home? Certainly, said the Badger, though of course I don't use it all. It is a rambling old place, much too big for a single man. I suppose some parts of it may be 1,000 years old. There are about 4 families of us in it, here and there, take it by and large from cellar to attics. Sometimes we don't meet for months. A crazy old place, I suppose. It must seem to you modern people. But there, it's cozy. He went down the corridors of the enchanted set, rolling from leg to leg with the queer badger paddle, his white mask with its black stripes looking ghostly in the gloom. It's along that passage, he said, if you want to wash your hands. Badgers are not like foxes. They have a special midden where they put out their used bones and rubbish, proper earth closets, and bedrooms whose bedding they turn out frequently to keep it clean. The wart was charmed with what he saw. He admired the great hall most, for this was the central room of the tumulus. It was difficult to know whether to think of it as a college or as a castle, and the various suites and bolt holes radiated outward from it. It was a bit cobwebby, owing to being a sort of common room, instead of being looked after by one particular family, but it was decidedly solemn. Badger called it the combination room. All around the paneled walls there were ancient paintings of departed badgers, famous in their day for scholarship or godliness, lit from above by shaded glowworms. There were stately chairs with the badger arms stamped in gold on their Spanish leather seats. The leather was coming off, and a portrait of the founder over the fireplace. The chairs were arranged in a semicircle round the fire, and there were mahogany fans with which everybody could shield their faces from the flames, and a kind of tilting board by means of which the decanters could be slid back from the bottom of the semicircle to the top. Some black gowns hung in the passage outside, and all was extremely ancient. I am a bachelor at the moment, said the Badger apologetically, when they got back to his own snug room with the flowered wallpaper. So I am afraid there is only one chair. You will have to sit on the bed. Make yourself at home, my dear, while I brew some punch, and tell me how things are going in the wide world. Oh, they go much the same. Merlin is well, and Kay is to be made a knight next week. An interesting ceremony. What enormous arms you have, remarked the wart, watching him stir the spirits with a spoon. So have I, for that matter, and he looked down at his own bandy-legged muscles. He was mainly a tight chest, holding together a pair of forearms, mighty as thighs. It is to dig with, said the learned creature complacently. Mole and I suppose you would have to dig pretty quick to match with us. I met a hedgehog outside. Did you now? They say nowadays that hedgehogs can carry swine fever and foot and mouth disease. I thought he was rather nice. They do have a sort of pathetic appeal, said the Badger sadly. But I'm afraid I generally just munch them up. There is something irresistible about pork crackling. The Egyptians, he added, and by this he meant the gypsies, are fond of them for eating too. Mine would not uncurl. You should have pushed him into some water. Then he'd have shown you his poor legs quick enough. Come, the punch is ready. Sit down by the fire and take your ease. It is nice to sit here with the snow and wind outside. It is nice. Let us drink good luck to Kay in his knighthood. Good luck to Kay, then. Good luck. Well, said the Badger, setting down his glass again with a sigh, now what could have possessed Merlin to send you to me? He was talking about learning, said the wart. Ah, well, if it is learning you are after, you have come to the right shop. But don't you find it rather dull? Sometimes I do, said the wart, and sometimes I don't. On the whole, I can bear a good deal of learning if it is about natural history. Sorry, hang on just a second. I am writing a treatise just now, said the Badger, coughing diffidently to show that he was absolutely set on explaining it, which is to point out why man has become the master of the animals. Perhaps you would like to hear it. It's for my doctor's degree, you know, he added hastily before the wart could protest. He got few chances of reading his treatises to anybody, so he could not bear to let the opportunity slip by. Thank you very much, said the wart. It will be good for you, dear boy. It is just the thing to top off an education. Study birds and fish and animals, then finish off with man. How fortunate that you came. Now, where the devil did I put that manuscript? The old gentleman scratched about with his great claws until he had turned up a dirty bundle of papers, one corner of which had been used for lighting something. Then he sat down in his leather armchair, which had a deep depression in the middle of it, put on his velvet smoking cap with the tassel, and produced a pair of tarantula spectacles, which he balanced on the end of his nose. Said the Badger. He immediately became paralyzed with shyness and sat blushing at his papers, unable to begin. Go on, said the wart. It is not very good, he explained coyly. It is just a rough draft, you know. I shall alter it a lot before I send it in. I am sure it must be interesting. Oh, no, it is not a bit interesting. It is just an odd thing I threw off in an odd half hour just to pass the time. But still, this is how it begins. Then he put on an impossibly high falsetto voice and began to read as fast as possible. People often ask as an idle question whether the process of evolution began with the chicken or the egg. Was there an egg out of which the first chicken came, or did a chicken lay the first egg? I am in a position to say that the first thing created was the egg. When God had manufactured all the eggs out of which the fishes and the serpents and the birds and the mammals and even the duck-billed platypus would eventually emerge, he called the embryos before him and saw that they were good. Perhaps I ought to explain, added the Badger, lowering his papers nervously and looking at the wart over the top of them, that all embryos look very much the same. Those are what you are before you are born, and whether you're going to be a tadpole or a peacock or a camelopard or a man, when you are an embryo, you look just like a particularly repulsive and helpless human being. I continue as follows. The embryos stood in front of God with their feeble hands clasped politely over their stomachs and their heavy heads hanging down respectfully, and God addressed them. He said, "Now, you embryos, here you all are, looking exactly the same, and we are going to give you the choice of what you want to be. When you grow up, you will get bigger anyway, but we are pleased to grant you another gift as well. You may alter any parts of yourselves into anything which you think would be useful to you in later life. For instance, at the moment, you cannot dig. Anybody who would like to turn his hands into a pair of spades or garden forks is allowed to do so. Or, to put it another way, at present you can only use your mouths for eating. Anybody who would like to use his mouth as an offensive weapon can change it by asking, and be a cork and drill or a saber-toothed tiger. Now then, step up and choose your tools. But remember, what you choose you will grow into, and will have to stick to." All the embryos thought the matter over politely, and then one by one they stepped up before the eternal throne. They were allowed 2 or 3 specializations, so that some chose to use their arms as flying machines, and their mouths as weapons, or crackers, or drillers, or spoons, while others selected to use their bodies as boats, and their hands as oars. We badgers thought very hard and decided to ask 3 boons. We wanted to change our skins for shields, our mouths for weapons, and our arms for garden forks. These boons were granted. Everybody specialized in one way or another, and some of us in very queer ones. For instance, one of the desert lizards decided to swap his whole body for blotting paper, and one of the toads who lived in the drouthy Antipodes decided simply to be a water bottle. The asking and granting took up 2 long days. They were the 5th and 6th, so far as I remember, and at the very end of the 6th day, just before it was time to knock off for Sunday, they had got through all the little embryos except one. This embryo was man. "Well, our little man," said God, "you have waited till the last and slept on your decision, and we are sure you have been thinking hard all the time. What can we do for you?" "Please, God," said the embryo, "I think that you made me in the shape which I now have for reasons best known to yourselves, and that it would be rude to change. If I am to have my choice, I will stay as I am. I will not alter any of the parts which you gave me for other and doubtless inferior tools, and I will stay a defenseless embryo all my life, doing my best to make myself a few feeble implements out of the wood, iron, and the other materials which you have seen fit to put before me. If I want a boat, I will try to construct it out of trees, and if I want to fly, I will put together a chariot to do it for me. Probably I have been very silly in refusing to take advantage of your kind offer, but I have done my very best to think it over carefully, and now hope that the feeble decision of this small innocent will find favor with yourselves." "Well done!" exclaimed the Creator in delighted tones. "Here, all you embryos, come here with your beaks and whatnots, to look upon our first man. He is the only one who has guessed our riddle out of all of you, and we have great pleasure in conferring upon him the order of dominion over the fowls of the air and the beasts of the earth and the fishes of the sea. Now, let the rest of you get along and love and multiply, for it is time to knock off for the week-end. As for you, man, you will be a naked tool all your life, though a user of tools. You will look like an embryo till they bury you, but all the others will be embryos before your might. Eternally undeveloped, you will always remain potential in our image, able to see some of our sorrows and to feel some of our joys. We are partly sorry for you, man, but partly hopeful. Run along then and do your best. Oh, and listen, man, before you go." "Well," asked Adam, turning back from his dismissal. "We were only going to say," said God shyly, twisting their hands together. "Well, we were just going to say, God bless you." "It's a good story," said the wart doubtfully. I like it better than Merlin's one about the rabbi, and it is interesting, too." The badger was covered with confusion. No, dear boy, you exaggerate. A minor parable at most. Besides, I fear it is a trifle optimistic." "How?" "Well, it is true that man has the order of dominion and is the mightiest of the animals, if you mean the most terrible one. But I have sometimes doubted lately whether he is the most blessed." "I don't think Sir Ector is very terrible." "All the same, if even Sir Ector was to go for a walk beside a river, not only would the birds fly from him, and the beasts run away from him, but the very fish would dart to the other side. They don't do this for each other. Man is the king of the animals." "Perhaps. Or ought one to say the tyrant? And then again, we do have to admit that he has a quantity of vices. King Pellinore has not got many. He would go to war if King Uther declared one. Do you know that Homo sapiens is almost the only animal which wages war? Ants do. Don't say ants do in that sweeping way, dear boy. There are more than 4,000 different sorts of them, and from all those kinds, I can only think of 5 which are belligerent. There are the 5 ants, 1 termite that I know of, and man. But the packs of wolves from the forest sauvage attack our flocks of sheep every winter. Wolves and sheep belong to different species, my friend. True warfare is what happens between bands of the same species. Out of the hundreds of thousands of species, I can only think of 7 which are belligerent. Even man has a few varieties, like the Eskimo and the Gypsies and the Lapps and certain nomads in Arabia who do not do it because they do not claim boundaries. True warfare is rarer in nature than cannibalism. Don't you think that is a little unfortunate? Personally, said the Ward, I should have liked to go to war if I could have been made a knight. I should have liked the banners and the trumpets, the flashing armor, and the glorious charges. And oh, I should have liked to do great deeds and be brave and conquer my own fears. Don't you have courage in warfare, Badger, and endurance, and comrades whom you love? The learned animal thought for a long time, gazing into the fire. In the end, he seemed to change the subject. Which did you like best? He asked. The ants or the wild geese? And I'm going to start what I think is the last chapter, but may not be. There may be 2 more. I'm not exactly certain. Yeah, we got a few minutes left. Chapter 22. King Pellinore arrived for the important weekend in a high state of flurry. I say, he exclaimed, do you know? Have you heard? Is it a secret, what? Is what a secret, what? They asked him. Why, the king, cried his majesty. You know about the king. What's the matter with the king? Excuse me. Excuse the sudden descent. Into that voice just got me. What's the matter with the king? Inquired Sir Ector. Oh, you don't say he's coming down to hunt with those demmed hounds of his or anything like that. He's dead, cried King Pellinore tragically. He's dead, poor fella, and can't hunt any more. Sir Grummore stood up respectfully and took off his cap of maintenance. The king is dead, he said. Long live the king. Everybody else felt they ought to stand up too, and the boy's nurse burst into tears. There, she sobbed. His Loyal Highness dead and gone, and him such a respectful gentleman. Many's the illuminated picture I've cut out of him from the illustrated missal's eye and stuck up over the mantel. From the time when he was in swaddling bands, right through them world towers till he was a-visiting the dispersed areas as the world's Prince Charming, there wasn't a picture of him but I had it out, and give him a last thought o' nights. Compose yourself, Nanny, said Sir Ector. It is solemn, isn't it? Said King Pellinore. What? Uther the Conqueror, 1066 to 1216. A solemn moment, said Sir Grummore. The king is dead. Long live the king. We ought to pull the curtains down, said Kay, who was always a stickler for good form, or half-mast the banners. That's right, said Sir Ector. Somebody go and tell the sergeant-at-arms. It was obviously the wart's duty to execute this command, for he was now the junior nobleman present, so he ran out cheerfully to find the sergeant. Soon those who were left in the solar could hear a voice crying out, "Now then, 1, 2, special morning for his late majesty, lower away on the command 2." And then the flapping of all the standards, banners, pennons, pennoncelles, banderoles, guidons, streamers, and cognizances which made gay the snowy turrets of the forest sauvage. "How did you hear?" asked Sir Ector. "I was pricking through the purlieus of the forest after that beast, you know, when I met with a solemn friar of orders grey, and he told me. It's the very latest news." "Poor old Pendragon," said Sir Ector. "The king is dead," said Sir Grummore solemnly. "Long live the king." "It is all very well for you to keep on mentioning that, my dear Grummore," exclaimed King Pellinore petulantly. "But who is this king, what, that is to live so long, what, according to you?" "Well, his heir," said Sir Grummore, rather taken aback. "Our blessed monarch," said the nurse tearfully, "never had no hair. Anybody that studied the loyal family knowed that." "Good gracious," exclaimed Sir Ector, "but he must have had a next of kin." "That's just it," cried King Pellinore in high excitement. "That's the exciting part of it, what? No hair and no next of kin, and who's to succeed to the throne? That's what my friar was so excited about. What? And why he was asking who could succeed to what? What? "Do you mean to tell me," exclaimed Sir Grummore indignantly, "that there ain't no king of Grummery?" "Not a scrap of one," cried King Pellinore, feeling important. "And there have been signs and wonders of no mean might." "I think it's a scandal," said Sir Grummore. "God knows what the dear old country is coming to. Due to these Lollards and communists, no doubt." "What sort of signs and wonders?" asked Sir Ector. "Well, there has appeared a sort of sword in a stone, what, in a sort of church. Not in the church, if you see what I mean, and not in the stone, but that sort of thing, what, like you might say." "I don't know what the church is coming to," said Sir Grummore. "It's in an anvil," explained King Pellinore. "The church?" "No, the sword." "But I thought you said the sword was in the stone." "No," said King Pellinore. "The stone is outside the church." "Look here, Pellinore," said Sir Ector. "You have a bit of a rest, old boy, and start again. Here, drink up this horn of mead and take it easy." "The sword," said King Pellinore, "is stuck through an anvil, which stands on a stone. It goes right through the anvil and into the stone. The anvil is stuck to the stone. The stone stands outside a church. Give me some more mead." And that's where we're going to stop, because we are, I'm pretty sure, are in the final chapter, or we're certainly getting there. Anyway, so with that, I am going to wrap it up for the night. Also, because I'm losing my voice, changing voices all the time, and then suddenly diving into the gruff ones leaves me not breathless, but certainly scratchy-throated. So, with that, I want to say how much I appreciate having you with me, and I am, as always, extremely pleased to spend time with you. And I will be back tomorrow night, and I think we might finish up the story. I may just read through to the end of the book, even if it runs us a little over time, rather than leave one little section left for a whole week in between. And then we'll have to start figuring out what we're going to read next. So anyway, with that, I say, again, thank you very much for spending time with me and my Atomic Metapagans shirt. A huge pleasure, and I will see you very soon. Take good care of yourself. Take good care of your friends and loved ones. Keep a little strength and interest in others around you who may need, even if it's just a kind word or a smile. And we will all manage to make it through somehow. And that's a promise. So, peace. Thanks again. Ciao, ragazzi. And I will see you at 7 p.m. or next week, depending on when you choose to return. Good night, good morning, good afternoon.